Hi, welcome to Everything But the Scores with Danny Jolles. My name is Danny Jolles. Today is, should have had this up, damn it, April 19th, 2022. First video one. We're doing it. It's quite exciting. The energy in the room is electric, as we all have panicked 17 times about everything. Thank you guys for tuning in. This was a podcast that existed before. We talk about the stories around sports, not stuff that happens on the field, stories around it. This existed for like a year, and then I got too sad during COVID. And you can look it up online. I did like 17 episodes straight with just my fiance. And then I was like, this is unlistenable. This cannot be enjoyable for another human. And I was like, I'm done. So, but now we're back. We're better than ever. The reason we're able to do this is that joining me now as producer, video expert, dare I say co-host, is a very, 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 very funny stand-up comic who I feel very lucky has decided to help us out. It's Mr. Noah Kopfer.
Hello, my friend. Yay. Thank you for having me, dude. This has been so fun to like work on with you and be a part of. It's been very exciting. It's
been very cool, man. It's fun when like you see a comic around and then you're like, oh, we get to spend time together now.
Yeah,
like
for
now,
sure.
Yeah, now we have to like actually spend time together.
Yeah, as opposed to like, I'll see you in a couple months, or who knows when the next time I'll see you is.
It's the best part about being on like a show or like anything like that. It's like you build this little community, and then yeah, it's great. And you're like, oh, I get to see this person who I saw before, but like now we're really.
But it also seems like now that we've done this, I have seen you now more just outside of it.
For sure.
It's so what, like I saw you at a show and I was like, oh, this is okay.
Now we're doing shows together.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Now this show features usually a guest, sometimes not, but usually a guest. And this week we have our first guest.
Oh,
the first guest.
Oh boy.
Of the video era.
Oh no.
Of this show. The pressure is high.
I'm feeling it.
He is a member of Lewberger, musical comedy group. I did not ask what credits he wants ahead of time, so this will be fun. We're gonna see if I get this right. Lewberger was finalist on Bring the Funny. They also did AGT, which I think is cheating. Feels like you shouldn't be allowed to do both.
That
feels like a personal take, but I just want to say
we'll take it. We didn't get very far. If that makes you feel any better.
I feel like you did do pretty well on AGT.
We got eliminated in the first episode.
Oh. Did you make it past the first thing or no?
No.
Oh.
It's funny because with that, so we They also did the show. Hang on. They also did Lewberger Live at Lincoln Hall. The celebrity theme song is the name of their new podcast. He is the wonderful and first guest, Alex Lewis, everybody. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, wow. Even though I'm just launching right into a ridiculous story.
I've turned down AGT 17,000 times.
Yes, I get that. So what happened with AGT was they sort of like asked us to write a song about one of their hosts or whatever guests or not guests, judges.
Yep.
And what they initially had asked us to do was, I guess Simon Cowell broke his back like a year or two ago, and so they were like, we think it would be really funny if you guys did a parody of Baby Got Back but called it Simon Broke His Back. So for anybody that doesn't know what I do, I'm in a musical comedy act, like Danny mentioned.
Yes, Lewberger is very, very funny.
Oh, thank you. But we're
Keith. What's Keith's last name?
Keith Habersberger and then Huey Stonefish are the two other members. And
so funny.
We make comedy music. So we do. We're sort of like a Flight of the Conchords type act, or Weird Al, or mutual friend Rachel Bloom, even you might say
a Rachel Bloom.
And so we make funny songs, and that's what America's Got Talent asked us to do. And when they approached us with Simon Broke His Back, we were like, we could do something about someone on the show, but maybe let us kind of rethink the idea.
What an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, so we ended up doing a song for Terry Crews, which was actually really fun. And Terry Crews, by the way, is like the nicest person ever.
He comes off very well. Former football player.
That's right. He's a former football player.
Played on the Washington football team / Washington Commanders in I believe, just preseason. But played we were technically the ones that got him.
Yeah, there you go.
So let me tell you, Terry Crews.
Yeah, he's incredibly athletic. He's, he was super down and was like super cool about it. But then and you don't see it on the episode because I think maybe, and I don't really know how.
So it aired.
It did air.
That's
and
what I thought.
Yeah, I don't know obviously like how they make their decisions on AGT or anything, but it sort of felt like the producers wanted us to move on. But and you don't see this in the episode, one of the judges was like, I was offended because you didn't say my name in the song. And so she didn't give us the yes, which like, as far as we were concerned, we won. We got to we made friends with Terry Crews. Like he came on our podcast, which is going to be the episode right before your episode.
And that's great. Yeah, definitely follow him with me. That's a good move.
Dude, your episode's really good.
Oh, thank God.
And like I think the reason we did that is we think it's, if we get some kind of bump from him, it's a great episode for people to hear the week after.
There we go. I go on a long rant about M. Night Shyamalan.
You do, and it's really great.
And I stand by it till the day I die.
It made me think.
Did you play any sports growing up?
So the most sport thing that I did growing up was I did a lot of water sports. So I grew up out here in LA, Los Angeles for the layman.
Let them know.
Yes.
Sure.
And
a lot of people don't know what LA is.
No. Well, it could be Louisiana.
That's true.
You know?
That does confuse me every now and again.
It's fair.
It's the same with Washington, D.C. and Washington.
There you go.
I always say I'm like a Washington Wizards fan. People are like, oh, you're from like the Seattle area? I'm like, gets people all the time.
That's right. Now, me as a Jew, I'd know that you're definitely not from Washington.
Sure.
What were we talking? Oh, right.
Sports.
So I grew up doing, I did a lot of boogie boarding out here, and I actually got really good, and I got really good at skim boarding as well. Do you know what skim boarding is?
Where you are on the... And now we've hit a sport I don't know very well.
Please.
But skimboarding is the one in front of the ocean where you're like going on the front.
Yes,
the front
it's
part.
in the front of the ocean.
In the front part, I would describe it as the hardest wipeout area.
Yeah, it definitely, of the wipeout areas, is
when you guys
quite
go down,
painful.
it is by far the most humiliating. I feel like
that is true.
seeing a skimboarder go down is hilarious.
Yeah, when you wipe out on a skimboard, you're definitely doing it with the largest possible people that can see you.
There's a child somewhat close to you that's going to be like, oh.
And it hurts.
Oh,
it hurts bad.
Sand is a nightmare in general.
Yeah.
I'm a big anti-sand guy, particularly now that like I'm older.
Uh-huh.
Falling/running in sand. Oh, what a great way to just absolutely decimate a muscle.
Running in sand sucks.
Horrible.
But on the coastline, it's a little easier because the sand is less like squishy. It's less. It's a little easy. You know how it gets harder as it's wet and
harder
it's drying
impact,
and stuff.
but less breaking.
Definitely a much harder impact, but I got pretty good at it. I'm not as good at, like, some people can actually transfer from skimboarding like into a wave and start surfing, which I can't do.
Whoa.
It's amazing.
Because I imagine it's a different like board.
No,
even.
I think it's
one board that can do both.
Well, so
allowed?
the skim boards that you'll start out on are like, you know, the little wooden ones that you get from like Sports Chalet or something, but you can actually get boards made out of epoxy or like polyurethane or whatever surfboards are made out of. Wow. So when you jump on the board, it can as long as you can turn into the wave, it turns basically into a surfboard. And I am a surfer now, and I don't
really?
know if I told you, yeah. I like surf. I go about 3 to 5 times a week. I'm like, I love to surf. You can look at my wetsuit tan.
Whoa!
I don't know if you can see. It looks like I'm wearing gloves.
Wow, that is wild.
Yeah.
You. I mean, you look very athletic. So it makes sense because you have the look of. This is like a thing in Hollywood of like people who look like they could play an athlete.
Well, this is sort of a new development for me. I used to be I don't know if you go back and look at pictures of like me from like 5 or 6 years ago, I look incredibly skinny, and I was
always very skinny, but I was always, because I always battle the other side. Like I will, one bad week of eating, I will blow up. Like my body wants to be 300 pounds.
Okay.
I am endlessly battling my own body to stay remotely in shape. The amount of effort and time I put into looking as mediocre as I look currently, I cannot begin to stress it. It is infuriating. But you, on the other hand, you go the other side, which I'm very jealous of. Of like you, if you didn't try, you would just be the skinniest person.
Well, I'd probably be skinny fat. Like I'd have like doughiness and stuff. Sure. But like growing up, I always had trouble like gaining weight. I think it's because I was on Ritalin for a very long time. Sure. But I look like I look like a skeleton in old pictures of me. Like, it's gross. It's gnarly.
But
Like,
now,
I know. Well, that is, I'm in the gym like 3 to 5 times a week, and I surf like 3 to 5 times a week. And I think surfing has actually probably been the best
I hear it's incredible.
workout, dude. And it's like my favorite thing that I do. It has changed my life. I started last year.
What time do you wake up?
It depends on, sometimes I'll get up at like 6 or 7 and go surfing, but sometimes I'll just go, fuck it, I'm gonna wake up at 8 and I'll go around 10. And it's like completely changed my life in like a big way.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. Do you watch any sports currently?
I do.
Scale 1 to 10. How much do you follow sports?
So obviously I follow surfing. I watch
sure.
surfing. But I also follow UFC pretty heavily.
There we go. That's Noah's big one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, dude. That's all I watch. I'm a big UFC guy.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I love Amanda Nunes. She's
Unstoppable. Well,
I mean-
right. But to me, she's still unstoppable.
But there's also some
Stoppable.
discrepancies. Some people think that she might have thrown that fight.
I don't know. I with those, like, I usually don't want to believe those.
What's the benefit of her throwing the fight?
Well, now I guess I that's a good question.
If you don't know sports, this is a phrase we haven't gotten to say in a year and a half, but bringing back the show, this is a phrase you'll hear a lot during this. If you don't know sports, all you need to know is what I say, so that in case people who don't watch sports at all can always keep up. Amanda Nunes, maybe one of the, not since Ronda Rousey has somebody really been as like dominant and risen like this.
Yeah.
She is sort of the next Ronda Rousey, but she lost a fight recently.
Yeah, I forget who it was to. Do you remember?
I should know it either, but I can look.
I don't remember her name, no, but
Yeah.
it was quite shocking because she was one of those who was like she was untoppable, if that word.
No,
You know,
yeah,
she-
unstoppable.
unstoppable. Yeah, she couldn't. There was no way she was going to lose that fight, and then she did. I think the only reason I think it wasn't thrown, I don't know. It doesn't seem like Dana White has a lot of control over what fighters do, especially with the whole Francis Ngannou thing, where he won and he was obviously upset about that.
Right.
I don't think they'd ever throw a fight.
Yeah.
Throw a fight, because of gambling now, to throw a fight is such a massive risk.
Yeah.
Because you're basically you're swinging millions of dollars.
Sure.
So to fix anything is such a big deal that I doubt it.
Well, I think the reason that it looks suspicious to some people is that she is now the judge on The Ultimate Fighter, or the coach on The Ultimate Fighter, and so is the woman that beat her.
Oh, that's just Dana White being smart.
Probably.
That's just Dana White the second that match ended being like, great, Amanda Nunes is going to have to kill Juliana Pena, is the name of the fighter. Going to have to kill her in 6 months. Let's build a season of The Ultimate Fighter around it.
I think you're probably right.
He's so quick. Dana White is, those are no sports, the owner of the UFC, and an owner that is quite public about his ownership, and very to a very nice degree at times. Like, it's such an versus boxing, the most, you always know why they're making every decision, how they're making their decisions. He stands up front. If you don't like something they're doing, he's like, that's me, I did it.
Yeah.
He makes decisions very fast, and he moves things really quick.
Yeah.
Someone catches heat, this guy Patty the Batty, like this guy's, that guy's about to be the next Conor McGregor as far as big, and you just see Dana White openly said it afterwards, which is like, yep, he's our next, we're going to pay him $1 billion, and he's about to fill stadiums for us.
You got to respect that about Dana White, I feel like.
You kind of do. As a like, he has a lot of things I don't like about him.
Sure.
But you can't help but respect, one, how openly his openness of his business. I'm like, great, love that. And then two, just how much he, like, it's all so clear. There's nothing happens in UFC where I'm not like, yeah, of course, why wouldn't you do that?
That's true.
There's always just,
all that being said, I grew up the son of somebody who's like massively, skeptic. So I'm just like, any like conspiracy theory, I'm always like, well, what's going on? Did
I
she
love
throw the
conspiracy
fight?
theories.
You know.
Don't get me started on conspiracy theories. Whoa, conspiracy theory. Nothing makes me more excited. Get me started on tennis, which I do think has match fixing that nobody's talking about.
Really?
And that's a topic for another day.
Okay.
But yes, tennis. Early tennis matches are highly suspicious betting.
Wow.
This has been reported on by a BuzzFeed article that then disappeared. Nobody else talked about it. I'm a big,
I
tennis.
love this.
Tennis is my one.
Wow.
Now, with that said, we could talk about that all day. We could talk about your musical comedy.
I'm down
We
to
could talk about your AGT time.
Oh, jeez.
We could talk about your podcast, but that's not what we do here.
No, we talk about sports.
We talk about sports. Do the theme song. Let's go.
You're a number one fan, so you know the stats. Heard all the pundits talking, so you know enough of that. Maybe it's time to hear some crazy folks chat about all the other stuff that's behind the net. But maybe you don't care about playing ball, and you want to hear the gossip whether big or small. Maybe it's time to hear some funny folks talk about what goes on when the batter don't walk. Maybe you'd like to hear a little more. Maybe you don't even care about sports. Either way, go on and buckle up your shorts. Cause this is everything but the scores with Danny Jolles. Yeah, doggity.
Welcome back to the podcast. We just had a riveting conversation about getting people to come over to do a podcast.
It was great.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people. I was telling Noah ahead of time because I've started reaching out to people. So many people are like, "Can we just do it over Zoom?"
Yeah.
And then I'm like, "It's so much better in person." And they're like, "Yeah, it is." And I'm like, "So then why are we just the laziest people in this town? Why can't we all just do what we're supposed to do?" Everybody's just. Also, there is a dog over there. Just so everybody knows. Alex.
No, the dog. You should start with the dog when you're trying to get people to come over.
I know.
That's really just send a picture of the dog on the couch.
I know. The dog on the couch really, I think, adds a lot. And I knew she was going to. I also was betting on this. I'm like, she's so reliable as a dog. She's going to be on the couch and she's just going to be there chilling.
And dogs do sports.
Dogs
dog
do sports.
Racing, dog shows.
Compagents. Some would call it. That is not our first story. Our first story in sports is a little situation involving the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh.
If you don't know sports, that's a basketball team, and that's all you need to know for this story. I feel like I'm like bringing back a couple like old tent poles of the old podcast, and I think one of the things I've always believed is that I believe in a couple things. I believe a cat on the field is the greatest thing that can happen on sports.
That is great.
It's the best. Can't catch them.
You retweet those videos all the time.
All the time. Anytime a cat's on the field, I'm like, this is the best thing that everybody tune in.
Yeah.
The second if you catch it live, I can't tell you. Because if you know, you know. Because the announcers never put it together. They're always like, oh, there's a cat on the field. I'm always like, no. You'll never catch him. You'll never catch this thing. Everybody's about to have such a bad time. No one will catch him. It's never easy. Oh, it's the best.
It's nice, too, because usually the teams come together in that moment, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, both teams who are supposed to, be competing, They're like, oh, look at this cat, everyone.
Oh, it's so fun. And this, but also, it's like, unlike a dog, because a dog on the field, everybody comes and pets it. Dog's like,
sure,
pumped to be out there.
Does that happen?
All the time.
Really?
Dog on the field, much more common.
Wow.
Dog on the field, constant. Particularly in soccer.
Why?
Constantly dogs on the field because people lose track of their dogs. But cat on the field, a much bigger issue. Much bigger issue. I believe a cat on the field is the best thing. I believe that athletes are sort of like stand-up comics where 1% are really terrible and 99% are actually really good people. And I think that we judge them based on the 1%.
I thought you meant at what they do.
And what they do. I mean, they're very good at what they do. And then I believe one other thing, which is that animal rights is a very important thing. Sports are a wonderful thing. And when you put those two groups together, absolute nightmare. Animal rights activists just do not understand sports, and every time they get involved, it is a nightmare.
What happens when animal rights activists get involved in cat on the field?
They just not with cat, just anything involving sports. They will just. I just watch them, and I'm like, oh, you're not doing it right. You're
like, do they get upset about like team names? Like, oh, you can't be called the Tigers.
Yes.
What?
But then, but for example, let's just do a for example, and then we'll get to our story. PETA, this was during the pandemic. PETA tweeted this at one point. This is word for word. So, and if you don't know sports, a bullpen is where they keep the pitchers before they come out, the relief pitchers. Bullpen refers to the area of a bull's pen, where bulls are held before they are slaughtered. It's a word with speciest roots, and we can do better than that. Switching to, quote-unquote, arm barn would be a home run for baseball fans, players, and animals. And when they tweet stuff like that at baseball, every baseball fan is like, come on. Like, we're trying. Like, I want to like you, PETA. And they tweet stuff like that.
That's an example of an organization just having absolutely no perception of how they look outside of themselves.
You're hurting your cause.
Yeah.
You're absolutely hurting your own cause.
Do they go to police stations too and say you shouldn't be calling where the police hang out the bullpen because...
Yeah, good point. No, of course not, because I think in their mind they're like, it's publicity. But the issue is, and like I'm always like, it's bad publicity. You don't want this publicity. This is not good.
No.
This was retweeted 1,000 times when it happened, because just every baseball thing was like, what are we doing? There's not a bull. There's no animal even involved in this. Like, you're like,
At no point was a bull ever put in a pitcher's bullpen.
But they've also, I mean, they go after like the Georgia Bulldog. They were like, the Georgia Bulldog needs
Why?
to be freed. And meanwhile, like, there's documentaries about this Georgia Bulldog and his mansion he lives in. He lives the greatest life ever because they just keep
The
his dog
Georgia
happy.
Bulldog is still alive?
It's been rotated out a couple times based on over the
okay.
years. But the new one is they live for like forever. I mean, they're very well treated. So on last Thursday, Minnesota Timberwolves played a play-in game. In the middle of said play-in game, a woman attempted to glue herself to the court in the middle of the game. And it was wild. It was an electric moment of TV.
What?
She wanted to glue herself because she is protesting the owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He runs a factory egg farm in Iowa.
Okay.
So she attempted to glue herself to the court. Alex, how do you think gluing yourself to a court goes as far as effectiveness?
I think bad.
You'd be right. By glue herself to the court, she basically just fell on the court, and then they just picked her up.
Yeah.
But it took like an extra second. But it was like, you can't glue yourself to things. That's not a thing that happens.
What kind of glue did she use?
I think she attempted to super glue herself.
Wait, was it Gorilla Glue?
It. Clip it. Clip it. Put it out. She attempted to glue herself. It was such an ineffective protest. On the live broadcast, they don't know what's happening. Like,
Did she have like a sign that said
She
no
had a shirt.
more?
So she wore a shirt that said like Glenn Taylor slaughters chickens or something like that. But again, no one could read it because you have about 5 seconds if you're going to interrupt a basketball, football, any sport. If you're going to streak, you have about 5 seconds. You need to get to the court fast, and you need to get it before they can cut away because they're going to try to cut away fast. She didn't even really get on the court. She sort of got near the court, fell down. So you hear the announcers going, "A woman just fainted," and we're concerned. Like, sorry, everyone. There's a little bit of hold up. A woman seems to have passed out. Like,
The paramedics are coming down.
yeah, they're like, oh, okay, and like you see them kind of being like, all right, we hope she's okay. But then she's let off like kind of violently. So they were like, well, she seems to be like, you hear them kind of being like, well, she seems to be let off though, a little like, all right. And then they went to the sideline reporter. She was like, yeah, this woman just attempted to glue herself to the court.
You know, it's actually not a terrible strategy if you're trying to protest something to pretend to faint for that exact reason.
There are so many better ways to protest. If you want to interrupt the basketball game, we can spitball in this room. First off, I think audio is easier than visual.
Agreed.
You can audio fuck them up for days. And they wouldn't. If you brought 20 people into a basketball stadium and everyone had an air horn, I think it takes them 5 minutes of the broadcast before they can figure out where get out all of you.
Yeah.
You could absolutely like put a halt to things. That's just off the top of my head. I would air horn it.
What else could you do? I guess nudity is probably kind of tough to do.
So visual. If you're gonna do a visual, right? Because nudity, it's like yes,
But then they're going to cut away.
but not impossible. There was a woman a couple years ago who flashed the camera behind home plate probably 5 times before they finally like
Wow.
got her, and before people. Now, weirdly, people realized it was the same woman, which speaks to the broiness of sports at times.
Sure.
People were like, I know those. Wait a second.
Oh, you know what you could do? This is ridiculous. This is the musical theater in me.
Okay, I'm in.
You form an a cappella team of people who
Okay.
who all want this Timberwolves guy, to stop making eggs and chickens, and you write some kind of song. Then the a cappella group, they could all. Can you bring air horns into a stadium?
You'd have to sneak it, but
Okay, you
can
sneak
do
in
it.
some kind of air horn, or not an air horn, a megaphone, like a
Yep.
some kind of megaphone, or even just one of those plastic things that like amplifies your voice.
Technology now, you can get something small in.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not going to flag it.
Yeah.
Also, they're going to be like, what is this? They're not going to know yet.
There
and
you
then
go.
You're ruining it.
And then that's that you get, 20 or 30 people. It's a big a cappella group.
Yeah, okay.
And they could probably, you get some harmonies going. You get people.
You go for a while. It's going to take them a while to get 20, 30 people out of there.
I
right
think
now.
so. And they can, even as you're pushing them out, they could still be singing.
And it's slightly entertaining, so I think the crowd won't turn on you. Because the
No.
crowd turned on this woman hard.
Yeah.
Immediately booing.
Crowd's not going to turn on you. And
Yeah.
I mean, even the announcers are going to, like, they're going to start off going, oh, look, an a cappella group's here.
This is an interesting halftime show thing. The halftime entertainment came out too early. Like,
Yeah.
they're not going to know what's going on. Very smart. Well, this same group struck again. They came back after the gluing incident. The next Minnesota Timberwolves game, around the third quarter, another form of protest. This time they went into they had a meeting. They were like, we got to be more effective.
Okay.
So this time in the middle of the game, Minnesota Timberwolves game, a woman chained herself to the basketball hoop.
To the basketball hoop.
Yes, behind it.
That's better.
Better. Took them about 30 seconds this time to get her out of there.
How did they do it?
Like, they got wire cutters. I mean, it takes 2 seconds.
Wire cutters.
You can't.
They have wire cutters.
It's so not effective. But now it's just a thing where we're like, all right, so I guess every game now, someone's going to do something like this.
I feel like this is a good advertisement for the Timberwolves. People are going to want to see who's going to do.
I mean, I'm glued to my TV. The game is, if you're watching this, the day this comes out, tonight the Timberwolves play.
Okay.
And you will be able to see what they do next.
Do you think they'll do something tomorrow night?
I
Or
do.
Tonight?
They seem to be, so the group is called
Wow. The group.
Direct Action Everywhere. Is the name of this animal rights group that has been leading the charge on this one. And the most frustrating part is, the part that gets me is only because of this podcast did I go, well, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
They have an interesting point. Like, he did do a bad thing, and if they were just to protest correctly, it could work so much better. Like, I want to make fun of them, but I do at the very end of this want to say what they actually are trying to draw attention to, because it is worth doing it. If they just did it the right way, instead of whatever they're going to do tomorrow night.
They got to start an a cappella group.
I mean, start an a cappella group. That would be good. They start an a cappella group. I mean, there's so many things.
So what is their message exactly? It's just
So their message is this. And if you're Direct Action Everywhere, feel free to use this clip. Feel free to use this, because I'm going to very quickly say what you're doing. This happened like a couple weeks ago. The owner of the Timberwolves owns a farm. The farm did a ventilation shutdown plus, which is a mass killing method to kill a bunch of birds. It is absolutely legal, not allowed, horrific. Should not be done, can't be done. They fired 200 people who worked at the farm already. So to be clear, while they have not acknowledged it publicly, 200 people were fired over this already. It was a bad event, though. Should not have happened. The other thing they're calling for online is that he was given $11.3 million in federal subsidies for that farm, and they were saying maybe donate $11.3 million to animal rights. I think that's a great message. I think Glenn Taylor should absolutely do. 11.3 is a lot, but $5 million I think would still do a lot, or 11.3. But that seems like a great message. It sounds like a real screw up on the part of that farm, and I feel like we should do that. And then a message for Direct Action Everywhere: please stop doing this. Don't do what you're doing, because it isn't working. You're making it look bad. That's the crazy part. Their point is good. Like, you hear the story and you're like, oh, that's bad. Why are we gluing ourselves to the court? Why are we doing it this way? It's so frustrating to me.
So this group is solely dedicated to this
No.
exact cause?
They just care about animal rights, but they're really hitting this one hard, and I guess they've really decided to go for it with the Timberwolves.
I can't believe you can get into a basketball game with chains.
It's a great point. I mean, with all of this, I mean, how are you getting to the court? I mean, it's also like lack of security is a problem. I mean, it's like you should not be able to get to the court. And like the funniest, but I'll tell you what, white women. It's
White women?
It's both been white women, and they just I secure my entire stand-up life. White women have been able to walk up to me.
Oh,
they'll
yeah.
walk up like you just they can just do anything. It's just like they look innocent. So it's like the woman glued herself. Like she just sort of walked towards the court, and they like you just see everyone kind of be like, feels right, feels like she's doing the right thing. And like this woman, it was like she had the chain like around her arm, and she just like was wearing like a sweater. Just sort of walked under the hoop, like this is where I'm supposed to sit, and then just like real quick.
Wow.
And then,
I would love to have a video feed of like the first security people to notice what was happening. What?
There's feed. There's a good feed of it. We'll
wow.
post it under this video. There is a good feed of the people kind of being like, you just see them being like, huh? Because unlike when the lady tries to glue herself, again, people thought she fainted,
Right.
so there was a quick movement. This one's more like, that lady's kind of standing under the hoop, and she seems to be a chain. Are we supposed to? Sorry, what do you do? And then like they're slowly like, oh, you change yourself. Like you could also kind of see them be like, oh, forgot again.
Is she wearing the same shirt?
Yes.
Hilarious.
Same shirt, which nobody sees because they drag her off so quickly. But it's about Glenn Taylor, who should pay $11.3 million. I think that is a great message, and he should do that. Stop chaining yourself to things. But it's a very exciting tonight's game. I mean, tune in if you want to see at some point someone is going to probably chain themselves or roller skate across the ring. That's a good move.
There you go. That would be good.
You rollerblade across them would be like, whoa, and it'd be fast moving too. Like once you got down to court level, you could. How are they going to stop you?
You know that's going to end with that person being tackled, though.
Oh, I mean, they always end up getting tackled.
Like but that sucks on roller
You're not a
skates.
cat on the field. You're not going to make it. You're not going to make it more than a minute.
No way.
No.
That's what they should do. They should get a cat. They should get a cat to wear
Release
the
10
shirt.
cats.
Yes.
They would never do that because it's animal rights. But if they were,
Well, then the animal rights people need to think about what's more important.
What's
10
more important?
cats or hundreds of chickens?
that's a good point. That's a very good point.
The cats were going to kill those chickens anyway.
We'll be right back with our next story.
This is everything but the scores with Danny Jolles.
And we're back. What a fucking system we have in this place. Everybody feels very confident every time we come back in.
I feel confident.
You want to say your joke you said during the break?
Oh, yeah. I was just saying, there is a bit of irony to the fact that a team called the Timberwolves, wolves, an animal very notorious for murdering chickens, or at least chasing birds, the owner is killing a bunch of chickens.
What we're going to do is we're going to edit this out. We're going to put that in the middle of that section. So
That'd
it's
be
going to
great.
seem like you nailed it.
I would love that.
In the moment.
Yeah, and I delivered it just now so perfectly.
very
So much better than when it was in the break.
You can feel yourself get anytime someone's like, say that joke again, I'm like,
Yeah, it's like, oh, God.
Anytime anyone asks me to tell a joke, I'm like, oh, please don't make me.
Oh, dude, imagine being a musical comedian having people say that.
That is so true.
It sucks.
But at least you can be like, I don't know. But because you play the guitar.
I play guitar. So that's my out. I'll be like, oh, yeah, I don't have my guitar.
No, smart. Yeah. I'm always like, I have my mouth.
Exactly.
I do have my mouth. But
Sing something funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, ugh. Do you guys get a lot of like, make up a song about this? Like, do a song about our friend.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I get oh, my God. My personal trainer at the gym is like the worst with this. He pitches me a new comedy song every week. I hope he doesn't listen to this.
Listen,
He's a sports
people
guy.
do it, and it's like I always say something like it's good people. They just don't know. Like he's not a bad person. It's just like unfortunately you're doing the thing that's probably the most annoying to us personally.
Well,
You know, like it's just unfortunately the thing you're doing is the sweet spot of what drives me nuts.
the funny thing with us too is that, we're a band, so we could in theory add more people to the group. So this personal trainer I have is always like, I play guitar. And he's like
that's
always
tough.
kind of trying to, he's like, have you guys ever done a speed metal song? And I'm like, no. He's like, I could help you with that.
Oh,
I could
that's
do
tough.
that.
That's tough.
Yeah, and it just makes me so uncomfortable to have to be like, dude, I pay you to train me. Like I kind of just want you to train me.
I get. I mean, listen, the fitness people, when you get in that world, they are. Do you know what no one ever talks about that group? And then we are going to get to this story.
Please.
The positivity from that group. No one talks about it. Everyone's always like, it's so annoying because they're meatheads. I'm like, the thing that's maybe the most annoying is the just disgusting amount of positivity.
The unbridled
Oh,
enthusiasm.
just every day, like, are you ready to fucking crush it today?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not.
It's International Chest Day, bro.
It's chest day, bro. And hey, why don't we make it the best chest day? Shut up. Every time I go into a trainer, I'm like, the positivity is what breaks me always.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I feel good about it. Our next story is about, I believe one of the worst humans alive right now.
Oh wow.
I think this human is so terrible that I was like, I just want to dedicate a section where we just break down how awful this human is. step by step, because he's in the news constantly.
Can I guess who you're talking about?
Yeah.
You talking about Logan Paul?
No. Logan Paul is tricky. Logan Paul does a lot of good stuff sometimes. Same with Jake Paul. They've done a lot for... No, I shit on them a little bit during a TikTok joke I say on stage. Let me say this. What Jake Paul is doing as far as fighting for pay for fighters is very noble. And I like the fact that while he is disrupting their sport and turning into somewhat of a joke at times, he's also fighting for the fighters. And no one's talking about that part. So I will defend Logan and Jake Paul.
Okay.
While also saying, I mean, yes, they're obviously quite annoying sometimes. And, you know, it's a lot. But God, Logan Paul had a great WrestleMania match. Am I right? He was so good. He was so good.
So who are you talking about then?
A man by the name of Dan Snyder. Dan Snyder is the owner of the Washington...
I don't know what that is.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Welcome to the podcast. That's what we like to do.
Perfect.
He's the owner, but that's the thing. People don't know outside of sports who this human is, and I'm like, people need to know this is the worst human.
Sure.
Who is still alive and moving and doing things.
Oh,
like
no.
he's just quietly doing things.
What is
every
he
day that's
doing?
bad. Let's go through a little timeline.
Give me a timeline.
So Dan Snyder, if you don't know sports, he's the owner of the Washington Commanders. That
Okay.
is a new team name for the Washington football team, which is the new team name for the Washington Red. You know the rest.
Okay.
A team that I've had to, that's my team. This is the team I root for in football.
Sure.
And I've watched this man. He bought the team in 1999. And so I've lived with this guy my entire life as the owner. And when a billionaire buys your team, you're like, okay, you know, it's like the owner shouldn't really be a story.
Sure.
It's like, obviously it's a billionaire. I'm sure they're terrible people, but like also whatever. I also have like met people who are very wealthy, who are awesome humans. So like, I don't know. Also he owns the team and who cares? Our story begins in 2013. But even before this, he was popping off. He would charge to attend practice. We're the first team to ever charge to attend practices as fans.
Okay, so fans can attend
Yeah,
practice.
he sold peanuts at the stadium that he bought from a defunct airline. Just stuff like that. Got caught doing that.
Which airline?
Some airline that went defunct, but he just was like, "Oh, we'll take your peanuts." And he just sold them at the place, and people were like, "Oh, he's the worst." But our story begins 2013, is where he really starts to like hit his stride as being a shitty human. May 9th, 2013. First off, May 9th, 2013, he says the quote, "We'll never change the name. It's that simple. We'll never change it. Never, you can use all caps," is his quote. Never, you can use all caps. From Red.
You can use all caps.
Which at 2013, he says never. Which at that point, as a society, we all were like, probably going to have to change the name at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is not aging well. 2013, he pops up with that. But the summer of 2013, during an off-season trip to Costa Rica, they do a trip to Costa Rica for the cheerleaders to film their like photos on the beach.
Oh no.
He decides for like suite owners and stuff, you can come and just watch them take these photos. So just while these women describe it, it's like, I mean, so horrible, it's hilarious. It's like while these women are taking their swimsuit photos, there's just rich guys just like eating bait. I mean, they're just watching them do it. It's disgusting.
Why would you want to do that anyway? I mean,
I have no clue. This is like a rich white guy thing that I'll never understand, is like just that kind. It's like, oh, you're just watching them. And for them, just hearing like a bunch of guys, like I imagine breathing heavily and just like eating bagels off to the...
That's so weird. I understand the idea of wanting to, in their mind, or in any male's mind. Like, I understand. I'd like to see an attractive woman. I'd like to be with an attractive woman. But wouldn't you feel uncomfortable watching them like do their job?
Wouldn't you see them at like various points during their photo shoot be like...
Yeah.
Like, how does that make you feel?
I
It's
would
gotta make you feel so bad.
If I were there as one of those rich dudes, I feel like I'd be like, oh, they don't want me here.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah, I feel like,
gross.
I mean, I don't know how I would end up there in the first place, but I feel like I'd be like, I didn't realize this was this.
Yeah.
But it seems as if by state. They also, there was a report of a video that was edited just for Dan Snyder that was just them like while they were changing. That was also just done. July 16th, 2020. But nothing's done. Nothing happens. NFL hears about all this. Move on. No big deal. He denies it. Every cheerleader's like, for sure happened. Nothing happens. July 16th, the Washington Post finally comes out with like just a report being like, this is the most toxic place ever. This guy is the worst. It's a toxic environment. 15 women come forward.
Wow.
And are like, every employee there, it's sexual harassment constantly. Snyder isn't specifically accused, but it's like, this place is just disgusting.
Under
like
his
the way
watch,
this
yeah.
place, this way this team is run is horrific. Snyder only takes blame for understaffing his HR department and fires a couple people.
Okay.
But stays in. He's like, yeah, we feel terrible about it. And also all these end with him being like, we're going to do an investigation. Okay. We're going to look into this.
It's like when the cops investigate
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah. Oh, we're really going to get into it. Yeah. Fires some people. Nothing happens. NFL hears about it. They're like, nothing. August 26th, Washington Post comes out again, follow-up piece. Because I guess that piece came out. And then an additional 25 women come forward. And they're like, I got stories too.
That's tough.
This time, it's tough. We're up to 42 women now who are like, this guy is the worst person. It is, I mean, story after story, just like, he's the worst. This place is the worst. This cannot be how this place is run. It is absolutely like, now he's mentioned specifically. It's like, this guy's a piece of shit.
Right.
We don't like working here. It's toxic. It's bad. We have to do something. Nothing happens.
Well, and he owns the team.
Owns the team.
So what could happen?
You can make someone sell the team. It's what happened to the Clippers owner.
Okay.
Remember when that Clippers owner said the N-word on a call?
Yeah.
And then it got leaked, and then they
Okay.
were like, you're selling the team.
Like there's like a board of directors or something that kind of...
The NBA can step in. I mean,
right.
Like, there's other
Okay.
owners who can be like, we're not, this is... Remember, the reason they go after players so hard, if a player says anything terrible,
Right.
the reason why they go after players so hard is because they're like, you're ruining the brand.
Right.
You're hurting our brand, which hurts our money. It's like, this guy is killing the brand. They do nothing. This one, Washington says, okay, we're seriously going to do an investigation.
Right.
And then the NFL has come forward and be like, you can't do an investigation on yourself.
No.
You're doing an investigation on yourself. This can't happen. We will do an investigation. That happens. December 29th, a bunch of the other owners, because there's a bunch of like minority owners, are like, hey, we can't keep working with this guy. They come forward. They're like, we can't, not just because of that stuff,
Right.
but he's not doing the finances correctly. Something's wrong. Like, he's not treating us well. It's harassment. It's intimidation, they say. He's like intimidating them. So they're like, so the NFL, so he buys them out. He buys everybody
So
out.
he's like the sole owner now.
Now the sole owner. And by the way, as they leave, they're like, he is, everything you've heard is true and worse.
Wow.
NFL does nothing. Nothing happens. But later that year, in July 2021, the year-long investigation by the NFL comes forward. They don't release the specifics, but they're just like, it's happening. Like, we found it for sure. He's that bad.
Okay.
They fine him $10 million. A joke. And then they say, finally, the NFL's like, come on. You cannot keep running this team the way you're doing this. And Dan Snyder goes, fine. I will step down for a time being. I will suspend myself. You're right. Instead, my wife will be in charge.
Wow.
100% real. She's technically she technically runs the place now, which is a joke because he runs the place. So that's 100% real. She now is just, that is the current situation.
Wow.
He's not involved. In NFL looks like he's not involved in day to day. He's still under suspension. We're still investigating a lot of stuff.
Wow.
Still trying to figure it out. Dan Snyder, the worst.
What made him end up ultimately changing the team name? Was it just
It was during Black Lives Matter and stuff,
Ah.
and everybody, like, in the middle of Black Lives Matter, just kind of as like a side story. Everybody was like, "And what are we doing with this football team name?" And like, and it happened so quickly because everybody was like, "Come on!" And they were like, literally, it was like the press release came out. And it was like, "Okay, fine," but we had, because he was so irresponsible, we hadn't trademarked or copyrighted anything.
right?
So that's why we had to be the Washington football team, because they had to find a name and trademark and copyright it. That's why we've been the football team for 2 years.
You know what? It's a straightforward name.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Grew to love it. Hate the Commanders.
I get that.
Ugh, the second era is like, oh, the commies. Everyone's going to call us the commies. That's the stupidest name I've ever heard of my entire life. What are we
That's
doing?
tough.
What are we doing?
Yeah, also, having the football team as your name, and you're the only football team with that team name.
Every single person asks me, like, what's your football team? I go, my team is the football team.
Yeah,
and
that's
it would always
not
get a
bad.
big pop in the room. Everybody, funny. I could kill at a sports bar with that joke. You go to a sports bar and you throw out the football team, everybody's like, you got me.
Commanders, it kind of sounds like you're ripping off other team names almost.
Could there be more syllables? Could we find a team name with more syllables
The
involved?
Blue Commanders.
Oh, that's good.
Or the Red Commanders, I guess.
We weren't allowed to use the word red.
That makes sense.
That was the thing that came forward at it.
As I said it, I realized.
I will tell you, there was a lot of discussion about it. It was one thing because like Red Wolves, Red Hawks, a bunch of those came forward, and they were like, we're not touching red.
Yeah.
We're done with the word red.
Yeah. Probably good that they just didn't use a color, I guess.
As of a couple weeks ago, a final story has come out.
Uh-huh.
This one involves Congress.
What? Congress got involved?
Congress and the FTC came forward because basically they did an investigation. They're keeping 2 books. They've been keeping 2 financial books. One book, as what they report. One book is the other. He's been stealing not just from the government, but from other owners. They've been underreporting revenue from every game.
Okay.
So the other owners have not been getting a cut of like what we get from our home games.
Wow.
So now he's ripping off the other owners.
Like the people that all resigned?
The people that own the other teams. So
the other teams?
Yes, the other teams. The other teams in the NFL are not getting revenue when they play in Washington like they should because we lie to them.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what happened to him, to Snyder?
And that brings us to today. Nothing. Nothing has happened yet.
He didn't get a fine or anything like that?
Oh, he's been fined 100 times, but nobody cares about a fine. He still owns this football team.
Wow.
He's the worst human.
That's pretty bad.
And he's got a real Trump Putin way about him where like all these stories come forward and he's just like, they just do a press conference like, that's not true. That's like their only response. This whole double books thing, they're like, that's not true. And then like Congress came forward, they were like, we're Congress. I mean, like this is the government telling you. And he's like,
We know.
and he's like, no, that's not right. That's their only statement. Has been like, that's not true.
Okay. Well, I
And
guess
that's the story of Dan Snyder.
we'll see how that pays off for him.
I just want to keep people alert because I feel like we're going to be talking about him a lot throughout the podcast. 'Cause
Yeah.
I find him to be a fascinating human that everybody should be aware. Everybody should right now just go and tweet, fuck Dan Snyder. I mean, he's the worst person. He's the worst person.
Damn.
And there's so many more stories. By the way, I had to edit this down because I'm only doing 15 minutes of story.
Sure.
There's so many more. I mean, the radio station quit because they were like, he won't let us talk honestly about the team. We're not allowed to speak honestly about the team. That came out. Nobody gave a shit. They were like, we're not allowed to shit on the team. He won't let us.
Wow.
He's the worst human.
Yeah. Damn. Well,
That's the tale of Dan Snyder. We'll be back.
This is everything but the scores with Danny Jolles.
And welcome back. This is a quick hits. This is where we do sort of quicker stories, not the long ones. Do there's 2 I actually put research into, and then the rest are like, this crazy thing happened. But first, Alex brought a story, which we encourage our guests to do.
yes. So one of my favorite skateboarder is this guy named Rodney Mullen. Are you guys familiar with this guy?
I don't know Rodney Mullen.
He created basically the modern day flat ground tricks like manuals and stuff like that. He wasn't the first person to do a manual, but if you see people doing sort of freestyle manual type competition stuff, he is like responsible for that. And when he was a kid, he was a part of something called the Bones Brigade. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
Bones
I don't know
Brigade.
much. I don't know much about skateboarding outside of Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
So Tony Hawk was on the Bones Brigade.
Okay.
And that was a team founded by a man named Stacy Peralta, who was also part of the team called the Z Boys. If you know who those people are.
I don't, but I love all this.
Great.
This is what the podcast is all about.
Yeah.
Seeing a comic go into something else that they care about besides comedy.
There you go. So Stacy Peralta, after he was on this team called the Z Boys, which were sort of the very first like skaters. It was Tony Alva, who was big famous skateboarder. Stacy Peralta. He founded his own team called Powell Peralta, which became the Bones Brigade. This is probably like mid to late 80s. And that's where you get Tony Hawk. That's where you get like Steve Caballero, who's a really famous skater.
That one I know.
and that's where you get Rodney Mullen. Ooh. And Rodney grew up in Florida, and he was very antisocial and would just skateboard all day long, every day, like 9 hours a day when he was a kid. And this kid, you should look him up. The tricks that he does are like magical.
We're going to try to, I don't think in the actual podcast we're going to show clips. We're
Sure.
just kind of stuff. I think we're going to have like a list of stuff underneath that if you want to watch, you can and see all the different things. But when we do, there's a world where we show like the TikToks and like quicker clips where we actually like cut to a clip.
You at home, and you guys definitely just go on YouTube and type in Rodney Mullen skating.
Yeah.
And
but I
you'll
love people
find something
discovering
amazing.
like cool athletes / new athletes that they don't know of because they're so cool.
Yeah.
Go on.
So I think he was the first person to ever do a board slide, which is where you flip the skateboard over and you like grind on the tape.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Does that just destroy your skateboard?
Probably, but when you're Rodney Mullen, it doesn't matter because everybody sponsors you.
So cool.
Anyway, he was 12, very antisocial, and his dad one day comes up to him and goes, "Okay, this is it. Like after this summer, you're done skateboarding. You are gonna get a job. You're gonna work. You're done. I don't want you to grow up to be a bum." And at the same time as that, so he's like really enjoying his summer vacation. He's skating.
And in defense of that dad, there's no money in skateboarding really at this time.
No, he wasn't necessarily wrong.
Yeah, like this is a sport that was, as you're going to see, probably 5 years away from a massive amount of money coming in.
Absolutely.
But at the time, the dad literally was. I mean, it's like getting good at like hopscotch, where it's like there is
and
no.
It's funny
sport.
because he looks like a little kind of hopscotcher. He's got like his little turtle helmet, and he's got his knee pads and elbow pads. He's like a little kid. But somebody told Stacy Peralta, "You got to check out this kid. He's 13, and he's like a prodigy." And he is. I mean, he's like flying on this thing. He can ride on the board on two wheels, like standing on it, like it's a rail. And he goes to this competition with Stacy Peralta, and he gets like gold medals in everything. Like he's like, the judges have never seen anything like this at this competition, and it's like he's blowing every like seasoned skater out of the water. And his dad came around. He's like, "All right, you can do this," and he went on to be in the Bones Brigade and like found it. He's a playable character actually in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. I mean, most athletes, we've had a couple athletes on the show in the past, and they all, by about 12, 13, like, it's not necessarily like they know they're going pro, but they're definitely like, I am a level of good at this that is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And the people around them know, like baseball players, all of them, it's like, so early with a professional athlete, which is why they come out so... It's like a child. I mean, they're child actors.
Yeah,
basically.
or dancer. Yeah,
yeah. They're
absolutely.
like you're a child actor. You're somebody who at 12 or 13, it's like, okay, your life is not like anybody else's. Like you are about to, because you're that good at basketball. I mean, they say with basketball, at 12 years old, they know who's going to play in the NBA.
Wow.
They can just tell. Like
reminds me of the opening of Space Jam.
What a movie and what a sequel! My God, what a wild misstep. But we probably know people involved in that movie, so I won't.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was fantastic.
It was really good. That story made perfect sense. And what a clear plot.
Oh yeah, and loved how connected it was to the original.
Yeah.
But let's hear some of your...
The Memphis Grizzlies, in the middle of their NBA playoff game, did a full wrestling match with their mascot, and nobody talked about it.
They did a full NBA...
In the middle of the... So NBA games... You know, in sports, when you're in the stadium, there's like all these like things that happen in between the action.
Yeah, of course.
Usually, sometimes every now and then, there's like a mascot, and he kind of goes around and bumbles himself around. The Memphis Grizzlies did a thing during their game. I mean, it's crazy. They basically he gets in a fight with another mascot during the first quarter. They get in like a little altercation. Second quarter, they come out. They're like, our mascot is hurt. He can't come out. So this guy's our like new mascot. Third, by the way. Crowd could not be less interested in this story. Like the lack of interest in the room is palpable. By the way, shout out Asif Ali, great comic and actor who sent this to me because he was like, Danny, when you watch on the NBA app, they show you what's going on in the stadium. And he was like, there's a plot that they're trying to pull off in this Grizzlies game. It is ambitious and awesome. Third quarter, the other mascot comes out, does like a promo to the crowd being like, you all stink. You're all terrible. Like, just cuts a promo being like, you're all horrible. And so then in the fourth quarter, The real mascot comes out, hits a bunch of people with chairs, then throws a guy through a table. I mean, the crowd is barely paying attention.
What?
Throws a guy through a table, and for the final trick, puts the other mascot on top of a table and jumps off a ladder through the table. Nobody talked about it. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life.
That's the best thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yep. Shout out Memphis Grizzlies. Doing a hell of a show, and nobody talked about it on TV.
Wow.
And I was like, are we not going to discuss their mascot going off a ladder?
That sort of reminds me a little bit of the Harlem Globetrotters in a weird way.
It does feel like something the Globetrotters would pull off.
Why don't they let the Harlem Globetrotters play an NBA game?
Because they're not good enough.
Okay. Fair enough.
The Harlem Globetrotters are made up of, let's be clear, a level of basketball player we can't even fathom in this room. The amount of talent on that team.
Yeah.
But it's like street ball. It's like when you watch like And One Street Ball, there's a couple people who crossed over. Skip to My Lou made it to the NBA actually after like getting big on And One. But for the most part, it's like they're very good at this thing, but like NBA game is just a different.
Yeah.
I mean, if you sit low during an NBA game, if you ever like get the opportunity and you can just see how fast they're moving on the court, it's like you're just like it's just a different game.
Yeah,
it's so
the Globetrotters are literally just practicing their acrobatics.
Yes,
and stuff
they're
like
doing
that.
acrobatics. It's still incredibly talented.
Oh yeah,
I can't stress enough. It's so talented, so incredibly talented. But no. But shout out to the Memphis Grizzlies for sending your mascot through a table off a ladder.
Wow.
Hope we all talk about it more. What else happened this week? There was a deer on the golf course.
Wow.
Cat on the courts. Deer on the golf course. That interrupted play.
So what do you do in that situation?
Everybody stared scared.
Yeah.
Everybody just stopped what they were doing, and this deer ran in. Shout out to the deer.
Shout out to the deer.
Because the deer,
if you're listening, deer.
If you're listening, deer, great job. Because the deer runs out, kind of has this moment where you see it being like, this is not good. Seems like a lot of humans are around. I thought we were. Wait a second. And so he just kind of goes back where he came from. He like just sort of stops play for like 30 seconds. For like 30 seconds, he's like, and he sort of thinks about catting it. Or he's like, do I just sort of run around crazy? And then he's like, I'll just go back where I came from. Right back out. But it stopped play for a solid 30 seconds.
Isn't that amazing? So since I started surfing, I encounter a lot more sea life.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I see seals. And they're very cute, but they also scare the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
Like if I see one, because they'll be like 3 feet from me.
Well, they're big.
They're huge.
Seals are no joke.
And they're cute, but they can give you herpes. That's true.
Wow.
If they bite you, they can give you herpes.
So seals are just, I mean, they're just fucking with no protection because obviously they all have herpes.
Yeah, if you see one on Tinder, just,
wow.
you know.
But that's pretty crazy that they all have this STD. I mean, that is.
I don't know. Well, hold on. I don't know that they all have it.
But also, which version of herpes?
This is everything but the scores with Danny Jolles.
Okay, and we're back from a camera break, which I think cut me off from a herpes rant I was going to go on about the two different types of herpes. And we're going to save that and not do that rant.
Okay.
But there's two types of herpes. One is very common and one isn't. And
Right.
so, you know, one is the one that, like, you get made fun of, and the other one is, like, most of us have, and you don't even know, and actually guys are usually carriers, and you can give it to a woman.
Is that the HPV one?
Ooh, I don't know.
Okay.
This is truly a person talking into a microphone, you know, with no clue what he's talking about. And
Sure.
Isn't that a lot of podcasting these days?
Yes.
Isn't that just become what podcasting is?
Yes.
Just a random comic being like, I don't know anything, but here's my hard take on a science issue. And you're like, you don't have to give it. With that said, I was doing that with herpes. But yeah, so seals trying to kill you.
Yes.
Got to be aware. Are there any other animals that you really battle out there?
I mean, there's a lot of dolphins, which you got to look out for because they'll rape you. Yeah, that's a big problem.
Is that real?
Yeah,
I
dolphins.
mean, I know that dolphins do that, but I mean, is
They
that like
rape
an
people.
actual consistent issue?
Dolphins rape people. Now, I've never obviously been close to
And
that.
let's be, you know, I'm going to tone back that word. Let's say they like to have sex with people, and that we don't care for it.
Okay.
We don't care for it, but you know,
It is a problem, and you do have to, I think, be kind of careful. I think stingrays are probably the biggest
ooh, I've had friends take
because you can't see them.
I've been jellyfished.
Yeah, well, if you step on a stingray, they'll fucking sting your foot.
Ooh.
And that's not good. Actually, I was out surfing recently, and there were no waves, so I left the water. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Oh, why are you getting out of the water?" And I was like, "Oh, the waves aren't really there." People talk to you when you surf. That's the other thing. If they see you, anyway.
It's a nice community.
It is. And the guy goes, "Well, I always say that a day that you got wet is a day made better." And then he goes in the water, and he comes out like 5 minutes later, and he's like, "I got stung by a stingray."
But he's taking it well.
He was. He was like, "I shouldn't have gone in."
That's so funny.
But it was.
I mean, and that is the type of fitness people I'm talking about. With those kind of phrases of like a day wet is a day, you hear that all the time. Like I try to go to a gym. I don't know why I'm being secretive about it. I go to F45, and they have like a lot of stuff like that.
It's called 45. Oh, F45. Yeah.
Great place. CrossFit, but nice.
Yeah.
And they, you do a bunch of stations, and then the hottest person you've ever met comes up to you while you're doing them, and they're like, "You're doing it wrong." And that's my entire F45 experience.
I have a friend that goes to F45, and he rails against them because he's like, "I'm not attractive enough to be."
Oh, it's brutal.
Social media posts. And he's so upset about it.
Oh, I beg them not to put me in their social media posts.
He wants
and
to
they
be
don't.
in them. He's upset that he's not attractive enough to
well,
be.
Let's be clear. They've never asked me to be a part of their posts, nor should they. But yeah, I mean, I'm not even close to attractive enough. You'd be. It's wild.
See, I'm glad that I go to a gym where social media isn't even a factor.
Oh, F45 is big. Well, because they got the Mark Wahlberg factor. Mark Wahlberg's a partial owner of F45.
Oh, that makes sense.
So he's like a thing. And then I think they started now just teaming up with like Beckham. I mean, they're big into celebs.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
But I love it. I will say it's a great workout. F45, not a sponsor, but now a sponsor. F45 sponsoring my look, which I always feel like anytime I do shout them, I always feel bad because I'm like, I'm not good looking enough to really shout them out. I'll say it on stage sometimes, and I'm like, ugh. They can't be happy about. They can't be happy about this endorsement.
I feel like all of your, well, not all. I don't want to reduce your. You're obviously a very good comedian, but I see so many videos of you talking about, I'm not attractive enough to date that woman. I'm like, Danny's a good-looking guy.
I think it's more. Let me say this. I think I'm a fine-looking guy. I think that and I think that, I mean, listen, if we're gonna brag, banger of a personality,
absolutely
unbelievable personality. And a very lucky, born with a very good moral compass, just kind of naturally. I got a pretty good, like, just natural read on like right and wrong. Very lucky. Some people don't. Some people really have to like work on that.
Yeah.
Very lucky there. I'm an average looking dude, and everyone I've dated, I mean, I just date above my looks. Just factually, that is a thing. And unfortunately, looks are the first thing you see. I don't walk in with like my fiance and they're like, oh, wow, look at the personality of those two. It's like, you can't see that. So I think as people get to know me and my fiance very quickly, they're like, oh, I see it. Like he's charming. He's funny. He's like, he's got a personality. But like out of the gates, it's like, yeah, I can see why yes, I stand by my statement.
No,
I stand by every one of my statements. But a banger of a personality, I'll say that all day.
Hey, you know what? I'll bet you that there's people out there that would say you got a banger face too.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. I don't think I do, but I'll tell you this: I can hold down a kitchen at a party.
Ooh,
I can take a party. You throw me in a kitchen at a party, don't even worry about it.
Like you're good at cooking, or you're good at talking in the kitchen?
Just talking in the kitchen. That's where I go. If you're at a party, you want to talk, I'll be in the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to grab a drink? Don't worry about it. I'll give you a little conversation for 5 minutes.
I'll take you up on that.
Oh yeah, throw me in a party. Throw me in the kitchen. You ready to take this thing home?
Let's take it home.
Let's take it home.
This is everything but the scores with Danny Jolles.
And we're back. I feel like video went great. Mine is camera overheat at one point. I feel like we're off to a rip-roaring start. I feel great.
Hey, you look great.
Alex, you held down. Thank you for saying that. Guys, just stop me right mid-sentence with that compliment. Especially coming from you.
Especially coming from me.
Because you know looks.
I do.
So this
know looks.
You know looks. This comes out tomorrow. Alex, plug yourself. What you got going on?
So you've got my podcast, Celebrity Theme Song, which Danny will be on in June, I believe. That's when your episode comes out. I know it's literally forever from when we recorded it.
I mean, I literally don't remember anything except I screamed about M. Night Shyamalan.
It's great. It's really fun. You're gonna love it. Celebrity Theme Song. Check it out on all podcast platforms. And if you're in Los Angeles, my comedy band Lewberger has a really cool new show that we're doing at Dynasty Typewriter on July 15th. It's called The Wizard
Well,
of
you guys
Friendship.
really go into the future. You like to book things in the future.
So, well, yes and no. The reason we are doing this one so far in advance is because it's like a full musical.
oh wow.
So this is different than anything. Normally, usually when we book at Dynasty, it's like a month or two out.
Yeah.
But for this particular show, this is what we want our next comedy special to be, and we want it to be different. Our last comedy special was just kind of us on stage.
Wait until you hear about my next special.
Can't wait.
I got a real gimmick coming your way.
I love it. This is more just like a narrative musical, and that's how we want our comedy special to work. So come at, if you're in LA, come check out The Wizard of Friendship. It's going to be really fun. July 15th, Dynasty Typewriter. You can get.
Can you buy tickets now?
Yes, you can.
Let's fucking go. Go
Yeah.
buy tickets. Noah, run yourself over to that microphone.
Hell yeah.
You got anything you want to plug?
Anything I want to plug?
Yeah.
My new YouTube special is out right now.
Hell yeah.
It's called Deep Breaths.
Let's go.
It's on YouTube. It's pretty much it. Yeah.
It's great. It's a great one. And then for me, I mean, nothing massive. I would say everybody put aside June 4th because I will be, I believe, filming my special that day. night.
Wow.
We don't know. I don't want to announce venue yet because it's not locked. But June 4th, put it aside. For the love of God, come. It's going to be in LA.
That sounds awesome. I would come, but I'll be on my honeymoon.
You're going to let me down.
I'm sorry. I've
Like
got a
this.
great excuse, though.
That is pretty good.
It's good.
Not being in the state does get you pretty far.
Not even in the country.
Ooh, where you going?
All over Europe.
Wow.
It's going to be fun.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my big plug, and then I always end with please, for the love of God, go to comedy clubs and just go see live stand-up comedy from good comedians. And now we close with the final thing of the show. Alex, you now have 3 shots from the couch to try to hit a shot. You have 3 opportunities.
Okay.
Here we go. You ready?
Let's do it.
You want to take camera off? We're going to take camera off. This gets
Okay.
exciting. This is how we close the episode.
I feel pressure just because I have to catch the ball. Oh,
There we go.
but I did it.
Easy.
All right. I'm going to put the mic down. Is that cool?
Put the mic down. I'll commentate it. This is the first shot. You going to line it up?
Can I stand?
Nope. Got to do it from the couch. Okay. That's a good start. You're getting a sense for it.
Was it?
Oh, we hit rim though. That's exciting now. Now we're getting into it. Here we go. This is the final shot.
Oh my God.
Let's all take a second.
Okay.
Because if you hit it, we cut the episode right there. But if you don't, well then, it ends that way. Here we go. Line it up, looking confident.
Oh.
We'll see you next week.
You're a number 1 fan, so you know the stats. Heard all the pundits talking, so you know enough of that. Maybe it's time to hear some crazy folks chat about all the other stuff that's behind the net. But maybe you don't care about playing ball, and you want to hear the gossip whether big or small. Maybe it's time to hear some funny folks talk about what goes on when the batter don't walk. Maybe you'd like to hear a little more. Maybe you don't even care about sports. Either way, go on and buckle up your shorts. Cause this is everything but the scores with Danny Jolles. Yeah, doggity.